This video tutorial will talk about how to use your basic setup procedure to set AutoCAD up properly to draw a drawing that has been assigned in class. So if we open up box.com and we go to the basic setup procedure folder and open the basic setup procedure file, you'll notice it says use these procedures to set up every drawing every time. It says this must be displayed on your monitor every time you start a new drawing. AutoCAD is a very procedural program, and having this open will help you get into the habit of setting AutoCAD up properly. Also, by having this open, you don't have to memorize this. You just use it, and eventually over time you'll have most of these issues memorized just from using it. So the first thing we have to set up in AutoCAD is our units. So it says type units at the command prompt and select appropriate drawing units, decimal or architectural. Make sure you set insertion scale to inches. Also set the precision area to appropriate decimal precision based on number of places after the decimal in the drawing. So what we want to do here is we want to look at that drawing. And here's the drawing. It's the family tree drawing, and as we can see, we have two decimal places, two positions after the decimal in this drawing. So we're going to minimize this. We're going to go back to AutoCAD. We're going to type in units, and we're going to make sure the precision is set to 2. Make sure we're decimal. Make sure our insertion is inches. And then over here in decimal degrees, let's go 2 as well. And for lighting, doesn't matter. We'll click OK. Let's go back to our procedures. It says number 2, determine scale factor by looking at the scale section of the title block. Scale factor is what 1 equals. So let's go back to our drawing. Go back down here, and here's our family tree drawing. And here's the scale section down here. It says it's 1 to 1. Okay, so let's go back to our basic procedure. Then it says drawing limits. Set new drawing limits by multiplying the paper size by the scale factor. Our paper size is 11 by 8.5, so the example is 11 times the scale factor and 8.5 times the scale factor, which in our case the scale factor is 1, so we leave it at 11 by 8.5. So this says type limits at the command prompt and set the lower left corner to 0, 0 and the upper right corner to our new drawing limits, which in our case stay the same size as our paper because our scale factor is 1. So go back to AutoCAD. I'm going to type in limits, and the lower, I typed it wrong, limits. Lower left corner is 0, 0, and notice inside the chevrons is a 0, 0. Notice that it's showing 2 decimal place precision because that's what we set it to. So we'll hit enter because anything inside the chevrons is what it will do if we hit enter. Now it's asking for the upper right. Notice inside the chevrons is 12, 9. We don't want that. What did we want? Well, let's go back and look at our basic setup procedure. We want 11 by 8.5. So we're going to type in 11, 8.5. Notice I don't have to click down here to start typing down there. Whatever I type is going to show up as long as my cursor is in the drawing editor. If you have the cursor up here in the ribbon, it will not type correctly, but if you have it in here, as soon as you start typing, it just appears. So we'll hit enter, and we've done that. So let's go back to our basic setup procedure. The next thing is grid. Set the grid to 0.5 times scale factor. Well, let's look at our drawing real quick. Family tree. And notice it says set the snap to 0.5 and the grid equals the snap. So our grid and our snap are going to be to 0.5. If we go back to our basic setup procedure, it says set grid to 0.5 times scale factor. Well, our scale factor is 1, so it's going to be 0.5. So let's open AutoCAD back up. If we go down, here's grid, here's snap. If we go down to here to our down arrow, go to our settings, grid is 0.5 on the X and the Y and 0.5 on the X and the Y there. We also want to turn off our adaptive grid and display beyond limits, and we want to turn our grid and our snap on for this drawing. We can now see the grid. the grid is the same size as our drawing limits. And if I go up to a command, notice I'm snapping to the intersections of the grid. The grid doesn't print. The grid is just there for visual purposes. Okay, so I'm going to escape. I'm going to go back to my basic setup procedure. Then it says zoom all. So if we go back to AutoCAD, I'm just going to type Z, enter, A, enter, and it will center the limits and make them as large as possible. Go back to our basic drawing setup procedure. Says set the snap up. Do not set or turn on unless needed. Well, we needed it, and we did it when we were doing the grid as well. So we've already done that step. Number 7, LT scale. That stands for line type scale. Set to 0.5 times scale factor. Well, 0.5 times 1 is 0.5. So let's go back to AutoCAD. As long as my cursor is up in the drawing editor area, I can type LT scale and it will automatically appear. And AutoCAD defaults to 1, but that is not industry standard, so we'll change it to 0.5 and hit enter. You won't see anything change on the screen. Our LT scale, our line type scale, that affects things like hidden lines, center lines, any line that is not a continuous line that has dashes, dots, spaces in the line. That controls how those lines look. So let's go back to our basic setup procedure. And then it says text style, only if text is needed in the drawing. And we do need text, so we're going to set it up. It tells us how to do it there. You can read it if you like. I'm going to walk you through it manually in AutoCAD here. So I'm going to type in style. And we have a standard style already. We never use standard style except as a starting point, because anything named standard in AutoCAD is not borrowable between drawings. That's a hard word to say. Borrowable between drawings. So I'm going to go new. I'm going to hit my cap lock and I'm going to type mech text. Click OK. And highlighting that one, I'm going to go and select Arial, because that is industry standard. Anytime you have a mechanical or mech text, we're going to use Arial. There we go. I'm going to apply. Then I'm going to click on that as my one to copy. I'm going to go new. I'm going to call it Arch text. That stands for architectural text. Highlighting architectural text, I'm going to go find Stylus BT. These are all alphabetized, but they're easy to miss. Stylus BT and apply. And anytime we set up a text style, we never change our text height here, ever. Because if you change the text height here, that means you can't change the text height later if you're working in a different drawing. So I have both my text heights set to 0. I'm going to make this one current, set current. Watch what happens right here as I click on set current. Now mech text is current. I'm going to close. I'm going to go back to my drawing, family tree, and that is mech text. So let's go back here to our basic setup procedure. The only thing we have left to set is the scale. It says increase the size of the original title block. Well, we don't have a title block yet, so we don't need to worry about that. We are done with our basic setup procedure, and now we can begin drawing our drawing. So if we look at it, we see our start point is 3.5, 6.5. And if you remember from an earlier lesson, that is an absolute coordinate. That's an ordered pair. The first number, 3.5, is the X separated by a comma. The second is the Y, and it shows that order right there as well. And it's telling me that's where that rectangle starts. Now all the rectangles are 2 inches long by 1 inch tall, and there's 0.5 of an inch between the lines and the rectangles themselves. So we're going to create our first rectangle here, starting at 3.5, 6.5. So I'm going to go up to the rectangle command, and it asks me specify the first corner. Well, it's 3.5, 6.5, enter, and there it is. And all of our rectangles are 1 inch tall. Each one of these grids is a ½ inch. So there's 1 inch, there's a ½ inch, 1 inch, 1.5, 2 inches. So I don't have to use any numbers. I can just use my grid and my snap. So let's go back to our drawing, family tree. And then the start of this rectangle is 0.5, 4.5. Now, we're not going to use that because we haven't set things up for that to, yeah, I guess we can use that. We'll use it. 0.5 comma 4.5 is that spot right there. So let's go back here. Let's go to our rectangle command. 0.5 comma 4.5. Enter. And then we go, remember that number's at the top left corner. So let's just go back and look at it real quick to make sure. Yep, that's the top left corner of our drawing. So go back to AutoCAD. So we're going to go over, we're going to go down 1.5, 1, 1.5, 2. Let's go back to our drawing. And then we have 1, 2, 3 more that are a ½ inch away from this one right here. So we'll go back in here, rectangle command. We'll go right here. 1. Spacebar will bring me right back into the rectangle command. Spacebar brings me right back into the rectangle command. So there's my 4 rectangles. Go back to our drawing. And then 1/2 of an inch, 1 inch down on the Y, and centered on this one is the start point of this one. And then we have 2 more, except this is an exception. There's 1 inch between these 2. So we're going to go 1 inch down from the James rectangle to start that one. So we'll go back to my rectangle command. Here's my James. Here's a ½ inch, 1 inch. There we go. Spacebar brings me out. Here's a ½ inch, here's 1 inch. And there's our rectangles. So if we go back to our drawing, notice we have a line coming right out of the bottom of the John Elizabeth rectangle. It goes a ½ inch, and then it's joined to a line that goes from the middle of this one to the middle of this one, and then we connect it with these small lines here. So let's do that. Let's go to the line command. Let's come down a ½ inch. And make sure I'm doing that correctly. Yeah, ½ inch. Hit enter. I'm going to come here, come up a ½ inch, go over, go down, just like that. Spacebar brings me back into the line command. Spacebar takes me out. Spacebar brings me back in. Let me go back and look at my drawing again. It looks like I might have entered a number incorrectly because we have more than an inch between our drawings. This should be butt up to that. So I'm going to temporarily just move this down. Let's look at our drawing again. And so then we'll go down now. We'll create this. Spacebar takes me out. Spacebar brings me back in. And there we have the drawing of the grid. So now if we go look back at our drawing, it says each one of these has text. Now you're supposed to make up these names, put your mom and dad up there, or whoever it is you live with. If you don't have 1, 2, 3, 4 brothers and sisters, make up some names, and if, we'll add a couple more names down here. We're just creating a family tree. And the text in this drawing is going to be 0.5 to 0.5 tall. So I'm going to type mtext. I'm going to click on this corner and this corner, and I'm going to go up here to middle center, and I'm going to make sure I have selected my mech text, and I'm going to put my mom and dad's name. I'm going to put my all caps on, Cecil and Nancy. Alright, there it is. I'm going to hit the space bar, brings me back into mech text. Click right there, and I'm going to go back to middle center, and I forgot on my first one to set my text to 0.25, and I'm going to put Mark. That's me. I'm the firstborn child. Hit spacebar, brings me back in. Click on that. I'm going to go back to middle center again. Make sure I stay 0.25, and we'll put Mary. That's my child that's next to me, the next closest sibling. Click on here again, go back to middle center, make sure I have 0.25, and I'll put Jennifer. Click outside of it, hit the space bar, brings me back in, click my 2 corners, go to middle center, make sure it's 0.25, and we'll put Amanda.